What is the value of the expression 6 squared plus 22 divided by 2 multiplied by 5? Which option do you think is the correct answer to this question? This expression seems very simple, but it tricks 98% of people. Let's dive in and break it down step by step together. To solve this question, many people start by calculating 6 squared first, and instead of the original expression, they rewrite it as 36 plus 22 divided by 2 multiplied by 5. In the next step, they usually perform the addition between 36 and 2 and simplify this expression to 58 divided by 2 multiplied by 5. Then, they proceed by doing the division between 58 and 2, which ends up with the answer 145. Then, without any hesitation, they quickly say that option D is the correct answer to this question. However, that's definitely wrong. Also, some other people when solving this question first go for the expression 6 squared and they simplify to 36 plus 22 divided by 2 multiplied by 5. In the next step, they usually go for the multiplication between 2 and 5 because they think multiplication has priority over division. So, they rewrite this expression as 36 plus 22 divided by 10. Next, they perform the division between 22 and 10 since they believe division has priority over addition. And they rewrite this expression as 36 plus 2.2, which ultimately gives them the answer 38.2. And immediately, they conclude that option B is the correct answer to this question. However, this answer is absolutely wrong. Alright, now let me show you how to solve this expression correctly. To solve this question, we must follow the PEMDAS rule. We have to follow the order of operations I told you, step by step from top to bottom. Alright, as you can see in the image, in this expression, first we have an exponent, then an addition sign, followed by a division, and finally a multiplication. We should start with the exponent, because in this expression, exponent has a higher priority than the other operations. So, this expression simplifies to 36 plus 22 divided by 2 multiplied by 5. In the next step, we need to handle the division and multiplication, since multiplication and division have higher priority than addition. However, it's really important to understand that multiplication and division have exactly the same level of priority. In this situation, the best thing to do is to start from the left side of the expression and move toward the right, performing division and multiplication in order. So, first we perform the division between 22 and 2, and this expression simplifies to 36 plus 11 multiplied by 5. In the final step, we do the multiplication between 11 and 5, which gives us 36 plus 55. And finally, the value of this expression is equal to 91. That's great. Option C is the correct answer to this question. Alright, now let's solve another tricky math question together. What is the value of the expression 27 minus 5 times open parenthesis 4 minus 1 close parenthesis? Which option do you think is the correct answer to this question? Let's go step by step and solve it together. In the first step, most people perform the subtraction between 27 and 5, which I have highlighted in blue. So, this expression simplifies to 22 multiplied by 4 minus 1 inside the parentheses. In the next step, they calculate 4 minus 1 inside the parentheses, which becomes 22 multiplied by 3. And finally, the value of this expression must be equal to 66. Then, without any hesitation, they quickly say that option D is the correct answer to this question. However, it's not the correct answer to this question. Alright, now let me explain step by step how to solve this expression properly. To solve this question, we need to follow a rule that is called PEMDAS. PEMDAS shows us the priority of the order of operations. Alright, as you can see in the image, in this expression, first we have a subtraction sign, then a multiplication sign, and finally parentheses. We must start with the parentheses first, because they have a higher priority than the other operations. So, we can write this expression as 27 minus 5 multiplied by 3. And the next step, we move on to the multiplication between 5 and 3, because multiplication has a higher priority than subtraction. So, we rewrite this expression as 27 minus 15, which finally gives us the answer 12. Therefore, option A is the correct answer to this question. What is the value of the expression 30 plus open parenthesis 8 minus 2 close parenthesis divided by 6 multiplied by 5 minus 3 inside the parenthesis? Which option do you think is the correct answer to this question? Let's break it down and solve it together. Many people, when solving this question, go straight to the first parenthesis and simplify this expression to 30 plus 6 divided by 6 multiplied by 5 minus 3 inside the parentheses. And the next step, they go to the addition between 30 and 6 and simplify this expression to 36 divided by 6 multiplied by 5 minus 3 inside the parentheses. Then, they perform the division between 36 and 6 and write this expression as 6 multiplied by 5 minus 3 inside the parentheses. In the final step, they go to the expression inside the parentheses and simplify to 6 times 2, which eventually gives them the answer 12. Then, without any hesitation, they quickly say that option B is the correct answer to this question. But I have to say we're tricked and it's not the correct answer to this question. Also, some other people, when solving this question, first go to the expression inside both parentheses and simplify to 30 plus 6 divided by 6 multiplied by 2. And the next step, they go to the multiplication between 6 and 2 because they believe multiplication has priority over division. So, they simplify this expression to 30 plus 6 divided by 12. And the final step, they perform the division between 6 and 12 because they say division has a higher priority than addition. So, they rewrite this expression as 30 plus 0.5, which ultimately gives them the answer 30.5. And immediately, they conclude that option C is the correct answer to this question. However, this answer is absolutely wrong. Alright, now let me walk you through a step by step how to solve this expression correctly. To solve this question, we must follow the PEMDAS rule step by step. And this rule, P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponent, M stands for multiplication, D stands for division, A stands for addition, and S stands for subtraction. We must follow the order of operations exactly in order from top to bottom. Okay, as you can see in the image, in this expression, first we have an addition sign, then parentheses, followed by a division sign, after that we have a multiplication, and finally another parentheses. We must start with the parentheses first, because they have the highest priority than the other operations. So, this expression simplified to 30 plus 6 divided by 6 multiplied by 2. And the next step, we move on to the division and multiplication, because multiplication and division have higher priority than addition. However, it's very important to note that multiplication and division have exactly the same level of priority. In this situation, the best approach is to start from the left and move toward the right, performing these two operations in order. So, we begin with the division between 6 and 6, and instead of this expression, we can write 30 plus 1 multiplied by 2. In the final step, we handle the multiplication between 1 and 2, and this expression simplified to 30 plus 2, which finally gives us the answer 32.